Hey, badass business owner, welcome back to the show. My name is Tammy, and if you own a small business that serves your local community, then you have come to the right place. Over the last few weeks, we have been discussing the past year. For some of you guys, you've had the greatest year in the world, but for some of you, it has been a struggle. And with things just now starting to get a little bit better, what I thought I would do is focus this episode on those that have been struggling. The last couple of episodes, we did a hybrid, and then last week we talked more about those that had a banner year and some steps they need to make sure that they're taking and not assuming that it's going to continue. So if you've had a fantastic year, make sure that you check out last week's episode. But in this week's episode, what I want to do is I want to focus more on the folks that have struggled and what are some things that their biggest takeaways that they need to have on getting that business going in the right direction again. Unfortunately, there are going to be some people who did not survive this past year. Now, them not surviving could be a lot of different reasons why they weren't unable to do it. They may have been a startup that never really got their footing, therefore they were not able to survive. A big chunk of people were not able to survive because they had no money to survive. Their business really wasn't on strong foundation to begin with. They might have had some great sales. They might have been doing okay before everything went crazy, but they didn't understand their business numbers. They didn't have any money set aside. They were building basically a house of cards on sand. It was never going to survive anyways. And that's going to be one big part of our takeaway of what we want to look back at the last year. And there's going to be some people that couldn't survive because they couldn't get any people. Nobody could come to work, and their job, the whole business was surrounded by having individuals that work for them. And therefore, because they didn't have the people, they couldn't do the jobs. There's all kinds of different reasons that may have occurred as well in between. But the biggest thing we want to do is really focus in on those that did make it through, maybe by the skin of their teeth, but they did make it through. Or maybe you lost 50% of your business during this past year, whatever the case may be. So you're struggling with your business, and now you need to try to get it going in the right direction again. And you're starting to see some signs of life. Things are starting to come back a little bit, but obviously it's nowhere near where you were prior to the pandemic and everything that happened. Here's the very first thing I need to tell the folks that have gone through hell. First off, congratulations for surviving. Let's start with that, because it is difficult to survive any kind of big downturn in your business, no matter what, and no matter how good you are. For those that have been able to build up money and reserves and get through that way, you did a fantastic job. You did exactly what it is that our goal needs to be in our business, which is to have those emergency funds for when the times get bleak. The odds of having another pandemic obviously are very low, but the odds of having a weather item happen, having you get hurt and not able to run your business, something catastrophic happening that shuts your business down for a few months, or maybe you have a brick and mortar and your street shuts down. There's all kinds of things that could happen that could cause your business to have a tremendous hit to it for multiple months in a row. And what you want to do is you want to make sure that you have really assessed your business this past year to say, hey, what do I need to put in place so that this doesn't happen again? But what I want to talk about today is more of how, now that it's done and now that you're growing, what are some things that you need to do? First and foremost, the biggest thing I need you to do is stop the blame game. And we're all guilty of this. Whenever things go wrong, we always want to blame. I want to blame the weather. I want to blame this. I want to blame the people. I want to blame cheap people. I want to blame whatever it is that you want to blame. In this case, a lot of people are blaming, well, if it wasn't for the pandemic, if it wasn't for the government shutting us down, if it wasn't for this, if it wasn't for that, you need to knock that off. Okay, that's going to get you nowhere. All that's doing is delaying you getting better. You need to stop blaming other people for the situation that you're in. Now, I'm not telling you to blame yourself, although there is some shared responsibility because of what was not in place before. What I am telling you is, it's done. You got to get over it, because here's the thing. As long as you remain stuck in that mode of blaming everybody else for where your business is today, you can't move forward. You can take baby steps, but you're always going to be held back by wanting to blame everybody else for what's going on. So what you need to do is you just need to, if you've got any of that inside of what your vocabulary and what you're talking about, you need to knock it off. Okay? Quit blaming everybody else. Now, I'm not passing any judgment on you. You have every right to be mad at everything that's happened that got you to where you're at today, but that doesn't solve anything. It's just like, when you hear people talk about being a victim and some people taking their power back. Yes, this is something that's really crappy and this is something that's really bad that happened to your business, but you're bigger than that. What's going to happen is you're going to walk away with some amazing lessons. You're going to learn all kinds of stuff, especially if you were trying to survive. Because when you were trying to survive, you were trying stuff. For example, there's a lot of brick and mortars that went to delivery service. And when they went to delivery service, they may have stumbled out the block because guess what? They didn't have a means to deliver. They didn't have the people to deliver. They didn't have a system to deliver. And all of a sudden they had to try to figure out how they were going to deliver. Deliveries went through the roof during the pandemic, right? So now that things are getting back to normal and they can have people in store or in their restaurant or whatever, they have to make a crucial decision. Do they throw that all away? Or do they say, wow, you know what? There is a need out there for my product to be delivered. So now really the question isn't, do I go back to the way it was? It's how do I incorporate the good from this past year into getting back the rest of my business? And that's a huge takeaway I want to make sure nobody misses. A lot of you guys had to pivot and a lot of you had to do things differently. Maybe you went to online bidding. Maybe you went to deliveries like we talked about. Maybe you went to, you created a way for them, a hotline for them to call you for whatever the case may be. Think about the things that went well first. Before you start throwing it all away to go back to what it was, I want to challenge you. Do not go back to what it was. Ask yourself first how much of what's been over the last year needs to go into the future with you, because there's a lot of good things. I've mentioned it before. There's going to be a lot of businesses that have discovered having their employees work from home was a tremendous boom for them and a total cash cow for them by doing it. And they're going to continue to do that going into the future. So you need to look at your business and say, hey, just because I can open up the doors doesn't mean I need to go back to 100% behind those doors. Ask yourself, what can you take with you that's going to be a great lesson? Another thing I want you to do is I want you to look back and say, hey, when the wheels fell off, when it started to get bad, when things started to shut down, what was the very first pain point that I felt? And that might be cash. Let's just say you knew right away that, oh my gosh, I just could not pay the bills that I had on hand. Forget future bills. I couldn't pay the bills on hand. Okay, great. Now that you've identified that, you need to tell yourself going, okay, I need to understand. You probably became very familiar because anytime we're broke, and think about it, your business was broke. Anytime we're broke, we know exactly what we need every month to survive. We call that a break even in our business, but a lot of people never take the time to figure out what that number is. Well, guess what? Those of you that struggled, you became very familiar with what you needed to get your business through in an emergency. And let's just say that was $2,000, $3,000. If you were a brick and mortar, it might have been $5,000 or $6,000. Whatever that number was, you need to say, okay, I need to build a cash reserve in my business to get through 6 months if that ever was to happen again. In which case, I know I need to put $25,000, $30,000 in a savings account off to the side just for the business. Okay, just for the business to survive and me to pay my monthly bills that I need to have. And then on top of that, any kind of income that you may have lost. And I'm not talking about your business owner income. I'm talking about the money that you probably paid yourself as an employee. If longtime listeners of the show know, I'm a very big, you get paid two different hats. One is as an employee in your business and one is the business owner. So if you were one of the employees in your business, you need to also go, hey, I'm losing this income, my bare minimum income, just because I'm not doing the employee part of my business. So you want to make sure you've got some money set aside for that as well, because your bonus money is the money that you make as a owner of the business. So please make sure that you look at that. Now, we've already looked at where the wheels have come off in our business when everything started to tank, right? You want to make sure that anything you put into place to help fix some of that you really do go back, like we were talking about earlier, and you ask yourself, what do I need to keep? What's the hybrid model that I'm going to have in the future? And that's probably the best way to look at it, is that you're going to have a hybrid business. You're not going to go back 100% to the old school. It might be 5%, 10%, 20%, whatever that is, of what you've learned over this past year that you're going to take into the future business and the future way you did business. Earlier I mentioned bidding, and the way a lot of people did Zoom bidding, where they had, they did it online with the customer, with what they are. With what they were wanting to have done. And guess what? Some people have been saying they're going to stay with that because they got that down to be so efficient when they were doing it that they also saved a lot of time. So instead of driving all over Tarnation and spending a bunch of time chit-chatting with people, they were able to get down to business, get that basic quote out to people, and to be able to weed through who deserved a follow-up visit. Think about that. If you could do your pre-screening on bidding, let's just say you're not getting a lot of your bids. You could do your pre-screening over on Zoom or FaceTime or however you were using it. And now when you're like, you know what, this customer is really ready to go, I need to get out there on site and do a more comprehensive bid. So ask yourself, what are some things that you learned that you could take into your business to make it that much better? Maybe you discovered you had the wrong people. The one thing I think everybody needs to be careful of, so if you're listening, even if you did great, is, we have a labor shortage. It's on the news all the time. Then there's a lot of people that are sitting at home. They don't, they'd rather take their unemployment, blah, 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 versus going back to work. First off, if someone's choosing to sit on their couch versus coming to work for you, then there's two things. One, you got to ask yourself, are you paying more than the minimum that they're getting for sitting at home? So that's a pay issue on your end that you really need to look in the mirror. Second off, if they don't have the gumption to go work now when they can go get some really good jobs, then honestly, do you think they're going to be a great employee for you? It goes back to what I've said all the time. Good people, great people, the majority of them are working. You need to go find them and steal them from somewhere else. I say this all the time. And as unemployment gets lower and lower and lower, guess what? You're going to have the same exact problem. So don't just be, upset that somebody won't get off their couch and come work for you, because if they won't come work for you, it's one of those two reasons. You're not paying better than the basic minimum that they can get, or they're not the people that you want to have in the first place. But I digress. When we go back to the lessons that you've learned and you struggled this year, did you have the right people? Did it really come to light that you had the wrong people and maybe you had to let some people go? Well, ask yourself, would you have rehired them? Be careful to bring back people that were creating all kinds of problems for you, or they were cancers in your business, whatever the case may be. Just because you need people doesn't mean go back and bring back the people that were costing you money. Remember, bad employees cost you money. They do not make you money. You know what? They might be a body. They might be a placeholder. They might be somebody that can check a box for you, but guess what? They cost you money because of their lack of customer service, their lack of gumption. They slow down the jobs. They delay other people. They give other people a bad attitude because they have to work with these people. Don't just go back out and hire the bad seeds that you had before. Always try to upgrade your team. Constantly, you always want to do that. Now, some of you guys struggled because you realized you put all your eggs in one basket. And what I mean by that is you did one of two things. What you discovered is that you only had one product or service that was your biggest moneymaker. And when that fell off the face of the earth, so your business tanked as well. In which case, you need to figure out, hey, are there some other items that you were able to pivot with to make some money and take those items or products or services with you? Because this way, by not having all of your eggs in one basket, if one piece of your business drops off, you're able to pick it up another way. So for example, there were some people that have a in-person type of business, and then they have an online type of business, and their online piece was able to take off while the in-person part went down. Or maybe they only had in-person and then they created an online, in which case they'd want to keep part of that with them if it did really well. So just ask yourself, did you have all your eggs in one basket when it came to a product or service? Now, some of you also had all your eggs in one basket with a certain customer. Maybe you discovered that, 80% of your business came from 3 main customers. And when those customers had their money cut off, then they cut you off, which almost choked you and killed your business. So be careful not to have so much of your business dependent upon 1 or 2 people. For example, I'm a huge proponent of small businesses that go into homes partnering up with real estate agents. It's a fantastic way for you to just drive your business over the moon, because the real estate agents are constantly looking for people that they can be really reliant on and dependent upon, and they make a lot of referrals and everything else. But at the same time, I don't want you to have all of your eggs in the basket from real estate agents, because if the real estate market was to fall off, guess what? Your business hurts because you don't have those referrals coming in from those people. So it's really about get the initial leads from the realtors, but really make sure you're taking care of every single other person that's down that pipeline, because they might still need your business and you're not 100% just getting business from that realtor. So yes, the initial contact might be made through the realtor, but the relationships in which you build are ongoing past that realtor. So the realtor is just one of your funnels. And if that funnel was to choke off, you still had all of those other customers out there making referrals for your business as well. Hopefully that makes some sense. But just if you were very reliant on one type of customer or one customer, make sure that you have said, okay, what have I learned about my business? Now, some people are going to have that same customer. You know what? If your customer, ideal customer, has to have a certain income, and then you have to ask yourself going, okay, great. I need to have customers that make, I don't know, I'm making up numbers. They have to make $100,000 a year. And I have fine-tuned the fact that I go after engineers. Well, great. There are other people that make over 100. Could they be your backup customers if needed? Now, and I know this is where it sounds like we're talking out both sides of our mouths, right? Because we always tell you to dial down to your ideal customer. Definitely want you to do that. But I also want you to know, okay, if I have to pivot, where do I pivot? I guess that's the biggest takeaway is if you have to pivot and things have to, if there's changes or something was to happen, you need to have a playbook. You need to have some notes written down somewhere of where it hurt when it choked off this last time so that you can make those pivots really quickly the next time. Because I'm telling you, the further away we get from the incident, the less you're going to remember. So definitely grab a notebook, grab some paper, write down the struggles that you had over this past year so you can make sure you put things in place and you know exactly what to do next time so you don't have to learn the hard way. So you can say, hey, when this part of my business dies off, this is immediately what I need to go do. Now, I know it sounds like I'm probably rattling on about a lot of different things. I'm just throwing out a lot of ideas. I'm spitballing a lot of things out there for you guys because there's not one size fits all. My main takeaway that I want you to walk away with is you had to pivot your business. You learned a lot about your business over this past year. If you've been struggling, you had nothing but time to figure out, okay, how can I change this? How can I pivot this? How can I do this? What if I did this? What if I throw this at the wall? What if I try this? I want you to make sure that you have a playbook, like I said, for next time. I want you to say, you know what, I'm going to get 3 to 6 months of expenses put aside so that way I can continue on. Hey, I realize that I need to make sure I strengthen and grow this piece of my business because this piece of my business can do well whether, my business is open or closed, or if the market shuts down. If I have a brick and mortar, this is what I realize on my customers. If my customers can't get into my store, I can immediately start doing this, and this, and it's going to create even more income for me, or at least continue an income stream for me. I just don't want you to be in that pity party of woe is me, this crap happened, this past year, the government's to blame, if the governor didn't do this, or if the governor did that, or if the president did this, or the president did that, you just need to stop. You are the reason your business succeeds or doesn't succeed, okay? Because when the economy tanks and when things are bad, there's people that make money in that type of economy. They know how to pivot and how to take advantage of it. And there's a lot of people that sit there and do the blame game or woe is me, or they feel bad. And guess what? That's exactly what happens. Their business tanks because they're spending so much time in the negative piece of it that they're not spending time in the how can I fix this? How can I pivot? How can I change? What can I do differently? And that's where I want your mindset. I want your mindset there now. I want you to write down everything you've learned over this past year. And the biggest thing is I want you to believe that, okay, now that everything's opening up and things are changing, this is how I'm going to take advantage of it. These are the things that I've done. This is how I've made my business better. This is what I plan to do. You had nothing but time to think. So if all of a sudden everything's opening up and it goes back to business as usual, guess what? You're not going to continue to grow. It means you're not thinking about your business. You need to constantly be thinking, how can I make my business better? That's why you get paid as a business owner. All right. So if you're just there to collect a paycheck like an employee, then you know what? Great. You own a business that really is just owning a job. As a business owner, you're constantly trying to figure out, how do I make more money? Because this is where you get rich off of your business. This is where you make a great, fantastic living off of your business. It's not as an employee of your business. That's just the base for you to survive. Everything else and all the wonderfulness that comes with having your own business is the additional money you make on your business. And that is exactly what we need to focus on, is how do we get your business back going? How do we create those reserves for both your business, for yourself, all those good things. I'm rattling. I'm going to continue to do this. But please, please, please make sure that with your good, bad year, that you really look back over this past year, because I'm telling you, it's going to be in the rearview mirror and you're going to forget a lot of the learnings that you had. So make sure you jot them down, the good, the bad, the ugly, what you want to continue to do, what you want to make sure you stop doing, make sure you don't go back to doing. You know what? You need to think about all of that. And that's going to be the key to your success over this coming year. And I'm going to be here every step of the way. We're going to continue to talk about the different subjects that are going to help put more money in your pocket, in your business. And with that, I am out of here, and I will talk to you on the next episode. Bye for now. Hey, badass business owner, before you go, as you know, I'm a huge believer in you knowing your business numbers. After all, it isn't about how much you sell. It's about what you keep. And the best way to grow your profits is to start diving in and understanding those business numbers. To help you on this journey, I have created the Know Your Business Numbers course. We will walk through how to read your profit and loss statement. You'll learn the key calculations that'll help ensure that you're making a healthy profit on all of your products or services, plus a ton of other good stuff that'll help you learn how to use those business numbers to create even more sales and profits. Just check out the link below in the show notes or visit knowyourbusinessnumberscourse.com. So if you're ready to increase those profits, it's time you start diving into your business numbers.